Okay, so Fiji and Scotland rounded out their group stage campaigns with a win for Fiji. It finished 30 points to 14. Scotland finally showed some fight and resilience, which they didn't show in the first two games. The first two games, they were dreadful. They had a bit of fight in this game, a bit of passion, but too little too late. They could have won that Italy game. They could have actually won this game against Fiji, but they didn't turn up against Italy. They were destroyed against Australia. And they were second best against Fiji, but Fiji were not at their best. They were boils of hot and cold, and it was a bitty, scrappy game that I think suited Scotland a little bit because they were never truly out of it. But Fiji won the power game in the sense of in the middle. They gained more metres, they won the territory, but they kept forcing the play unnecessarily, which allowed Scotland to keep lingering around in the match. There were 3 sin bins all in the second half. It almost boiled over in the second half. I think the referee was starting to lose control. The battle between Walmsley and Kickow on that side of the field, on his wing, on the right, Scottish right wing, the Fijian left edge, boiled over in the second half. There were a couple of high tackles, and it simmered, and then the sin bins come. However, after 15 minutes, it's 12-0. Sandragu and Kickow with their tries, and Wakeham converting them both, and you're thinking Scotland are going to surrender here. They try a third time to go down their left edge. Walmsley intercepts and does a Dom Young and runs the length of the field for a very good intercept try. We've seen a lot of intercept tries in this tournament so far. It's definitely a defensive tactic that coaches are employing. Coaches are employing is using the intercept to get down the other end of the field. Wingers jamming in and going, and when the half is trying to do the Harbour Bridge pass or the bullet pass, the timing is everything. The timing of the other wingers' run is everything, and teams are getting it wrong, and other teams defensively are reading that and taking chances. And there was also chances for Fiji to do something similar in the second half. Doesn't quite come off, but it's almost a carbon copy of one of Dom Young's tries in earlier games. Get an intercept from a similar position and a 90-metre run. And that sparks Scotland to life. However, Henry Rawalawi scores his try in 35 minutes. Wakeham converts that before Ben Halliwell scores his try in 40 minutes on the stroke of half-time. And it's 18-8 at half-time. So Scotland have actually shown a bit of fight. Scotland have actually got up into the opposition 20. They're much more committed defensively, something that was lacking in the previous 2 games. Yes, Fiji are still winning the ruck speed and they are winning the contact area, but Fiji are forcing passes and scrappy ends of sets are allowing Scotland to stay in the game. And Scotland are lingering like a bad smell. So it's 18-8 at half-time. After half-time is where it gets feisty. Now, there are 3 sin bins at various points, and after the sin bins, tries are scored, which is very, very interesting. So Micah Sevo's try comes after a sin bin. That's on 45 minutes. Wakeham converts. Now, Micah Sevo's been a little bit quiet in this tournament. He has scored some tries, but not as many as some of the other wingers and centres and fullbacks have. He is a power winger. He is just a power winger, and he's not getting the opportunities at times. And on his side of the field is where Walmsley and Kickow are having their spicy encounter. And Walmsley, as the more slimmer winger, is giving him a good battle, and it was quite an even battle. And Micah Sevo, it takes until Scotland are reduced to 12 players to get his try because it's just a natural overlap. Wakeham converts that. Bailey Liu's try in 50 minutes. Again, it's the game is still getting feisty. It's broken. It's scrappy, and it's good play. It is good play, and you can't argue that Scotland didn't deserve that because they're sticking around and they're upsetting the Fijian rhythm. And it's becoming scrappy. The weather isn't helping. It's a bit misty and foggy. It's getting cold. It's miserable conditions. Yes, they are playing on the 4G pitch. Does that have something to do with it? Did the Fijians adapt to that? Scotland have already played on that pitch before. Does that give them that little bit of extra, confidence in the surface? Because when kicks are going through, the ball bounces differently. So that might have had something to do with it. The weather conditions might have had something to do with it. The Fijians are still trying to force the play, which is unnecessary. Then Walmsley and Kickow both get sin bins. They were warned from a previous coming together. Walmsley was pushing his luck. He was starting to get feisty. Kickow was starting to get feisty. Yes, you could argue Walmsley slightly high tackle. He'd had a few of them in the second half. That he got away with. Kirkow's reaction, storming in well after the whistle. I think both sides have been warned that players would go to the sin bin. That is what has happened. And then shortly after that, Corbin Sims gets his try on 67 minutes. This is his last rugby league he's going to be playing. So if the further Fiji progress, that's an extra game for him. Now, they are going to make it to quarterfinals. Let's not kid ourselves. But it is going to be, his last few games. He did have a tip tackle. He may get cited for that later on, which was deemed as a dangerous tackle, though he wasn't put on report on the field. The disciplinary committee may still decide to issue a fine and or suspension. But Corbin Sims, when he was on the field, the energy levels from the Fijian pack, they were on the front foot. They were breaking the gain line. They were forcing second phase. When Corbin Sims was off the field, Fiji looked a little bit less destructive in the forward pack and were relying more on unnecessary offloads to try and forcing the play. But when he's on the field, they play better. Corbin Sims, I think, really led that forward pack around fantastically. He scores the last try in 67 minutes, and then the game gets scrappy and feisty, and you're thinking one flashpoint the game could spill over. And the passions could get the better of the players that were simmering, and we've seen the sim bins earlier on in the second half. In the end, it's finished 30 points to 14. Scotland finally showing some fight. However, very similar to 2017 in the World Cup, the teams didn't have any aggression, any fight. They did seem to lack of something. Yes, they are one of the weaker teams in their group. There's no argument there. But I do think the game at national level in Scotland, the funding, whatever the formula is, whatever's going on, the development of players or scouting players, and if they are second or third generation, they use the parent or grandparent rule. Something has definitely declined in Scottish Rugby League since 2013 when England last hosted the World Cup. Something has definitely gone backwards in that time. And it's taken until 20 odd minutes into their final group game for them to finally show a little bit of life and a little bit of resistance to the other sides. And they would have been targeting that Italy game in the opening weekend, and they really were flat in that. They got hammered by Australia, who had made a lot of changes to their initial lineup, trying to figure out their best lineup. They only had, I think, 2 or 3 tackles in the opposition 20-metre area. Now, yes, they get tries, and yes, one of them did come from an intercept. But they rarely got up the other end, and when they did, yes, they get 2 tries, but they were losing the territory battle. They lost the physicality. Maybe fitness is a problem. I don't know. Fiji weren't at their best. They looked a little bit hot and cold, a bit stop-start. They weren't fluid. They had an opportunity against a side that had 2 floggings to really blast them off the field. They didn't do that. They did enough to win. So let's hope Fiji really step up their game in the knockout stage of Scotland. Another disappointing campaign. They were actually going in as favourites against Italy. So as soon as they lost that first game, they really gave themselves no hope to get out of the group, in my opinion. And it's a bit of a meek ending to their World Cup. But there we go. Fiji have run out 30 points to 14. Thank you very much for watching. Italy now playing Australia in a mammoth task for the Italians, but they've got some talent in their side that's shone in this tournament so far. There's a few players I think could earn themselves some big money contracts and some big money moves. And what lineup do the Aussies put out later? Do they chop and change again? Do they give a run out to players? We will see. But from me, thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.